Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to another Solution Sunday, where the soul is the solution. I am Lisa Warner, and I am the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing and the creator of Solution Sunday. And I am here with my good friend, Rebecca Smith-McGovern. So Rebecca is the one that has just completed this beautiful series of talks called The Healing Coincidence. So we're going to talk a lot about healing today and all kinds of really great things. So please stay tuned, stick with us. And if anybody is watching on Facebook Live, then please feel free to pop in any questions you may have as we go along. So Rebecca, welcome to Solution Sunday. So nice
thanks,
to have you.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Great. So you and I met quite a while ago, and we both had a self-healing story to share with each other. So maybe we should start with some stories of self-healing this morning and how we came together and how it was a coincidence.
Gosh. So my self-healing story, I mean, I have to say, I don't give myself credit for that, in the sense that when I started out years and years and years ago, I was on a pathway to go into veterinary school, and had actually gotten everything going, and I was in my first year of college, and I wound up really sick. I had some problems in high school, but I hadn't really, connected any dots or anything. But I wound up coming home, and I was very, very ill. And the first thing they did was put me on medications. They didn't have an answer for me as to, what was going on, but I was having a lot of cold and numbness in my, hands and feet, which is, they said, oh, well, that's Raynaud's. And they were looking for lupus because it's commonly associated, but there weren't enough markers for that. And they were looking for a lot of different things. My path continued to kind of just sort of accelerate into the disease state. Now, this wound up with me, withdrawing from college completely. I gave up that school. I did not get to do that because I found myself sitting in a doctor's office where he said, well, you have autoimmune hepatitis and you have 5 years to live. And, if I go back into the emotions of that time, at that time, not only was I upset, I was scared, but probably more than anything, I was mad. I think that was probably the biggest emotion I had, was that I was mad. And because I wasn't even 21, I hadn't even turned 21 yet. And so I was there with my mom and my then boyfriend. And of course, moms are always, uber supportive. They're there to, my mom is. And the boyfriend that I had at that time just thought the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker, was just like, oh, and I'm looking at this and I'm going, no. And so I made a choice. So and this is something that I really want to emphasize, because choice is a really important part of healing, the healing journey, however it looks for you. Choice is a super important part. Now, I didn't know in my mind, okay, this is step one, I'll make a choice. I didn't know that. I just had it inside of me. It came up. It was my knowing of, no, I'm not doing that. And I did proceed to go through several doctors over the course of several years. But as you can see, I'm here. I did not die. And I don't have autoimmune hepatitis anymore. Now, what did happen was I did have a cascade of symptoms over several years. that led to a lot of different diagnoses, including lupus and, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And, I mean, whole smorgasbord. I've had pleurisy. I've had fluid around my heart, vasculitis. I've had cysts that needed to be removed. Those were side effects of medications that I was on. There's been a lot of stuff, but this all culminated at a point where I had come through having pleurisy and I was still in a lot of pain, even though the inflammatory part was gone. They had treated that. I'd been on a lot of steroids. And again, I was faced with this, well, you're probably going to have this pain for the rest of your life. And for anyone that has had pleurisy, they know that it's extraordinarily painful because it's really hard to breathe. And I was just laying in my bed and I could not sleep because of the pain. And I called out to God and I said, I cannot do this anymore. And I heard a voice, and that voice came into my head like changing a radio station. And the words were spoken that you will have pain for 3 more days. It will gradually recede. And on the 3rd day, it will be gone. And the first thing I did was say, is this real? Is this real? And the answer was yes. And I said, well, do I need to do anything? And the answer was no. And I asked if there was anything that I could do. And it was to share the word. Now, in that moment, I didn't know what that meant. That's okay. And then I asked, why me? And this was the really big key that has moved me forward through my life and brought me to this point where I am, now, which is all are chosen. Most don't listen. All are chosen. So I know, because I heard it, I know every person is chosen to heal. I believe it in my heart, through my soul. I know every person is chosen. And, at the end of all of that, I said, well, who is this? And the answer was, I am that I am. And I went to sleep that night, and over 3 days, the pain receded. And on the 3rd day, it was gone. It's never come back. And from that point forward, my life shifted. But there was something that I really, really learned. And admittedly, it took an extraordinarily profound experience to wake me up to this, because I had been floundering around for almost a decade of looking for the answers to my health outside of myself. Mm. I had gone from doctor to doctor. I had tried protocol to protocol. I had been on a lot of medications, chemotherapy, drugs, and all kinds of things because my immune system was so trashed. And what I realized after that experience was that, whoa, no, it's inside of me. The answer is inside of me. And I get to create by alignment, by aligning to, however that looks. It's going to be different for different people, but that's what came out of that. And so, moving forward, it brings me to another point, which is really, how do we define healing? Do we define healing as something that's what I just said? Oh, this miraculous thing that happens over 3 days and poof, it's gone. Do we define it that way? Do we define it as, total release from all of our problems? Do we define it as, everything is so-called perfect in our minds? But we cannot define it by a standard that is external to ourselves. We cannot define healing by a standard that is external to ourselves. So in other words, we tend to define our state of being by what we see somewhere else. In
Mhm.
other words, comparison or what we know in the physical world here, even when you get laboratory reports, right? They've got all these little numbers down the side, and here's the normal range, and here's you, and you're like, I'm not in that normal range. What's wrong? Well, I consider myself abnormally normal. I mean, I even have an extra vertebrae in my back. I mean, it's like, and that's considered abnormal, but I'm perfectly normal.
Mhm.
I get along just fine. I do great. And I'm not on a bunch of medication either. So, the whole thing of, and medication isn't the defining point either. So for anyone that is, that's not the defining point. um, it's just a very interesting way to begin seeing yourself in the world when you begin removing your comparison to what is external to you and begin looking inside of yourself. How am I feeling today? What's going on inside? If something's a little off, we can literally come inside of ourselves and come to a point and ask, where do I need to go with this? And those answers come. That brings us to making a choice to listen to what's internal, to listen to that voice, trust it, and then take action on it. And that could be the harder part sometimes, because sometimes we're scared. But yet, when you can take it in baby steps. I'm super encouraging about this kind of a thing because I know, because I've experienced it, and I've seen it in my family. I've seen it in people that I work with, clients that I work with. It's the truth. It's truth. It's aligning to truth. Your truth.
Exactly. I love that. I talking about making a choice. Most people really don't make choices. They're like, oh, I want to get better, or oh, I want to be healthy. Well, it's not actually a choice. Like you have to actually choose what it is that you want, and you have to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in my state of dis-ease, I looked at all the choices that I had.
Yeah.
And I looked at all that whole pre-paved path that the medical route laid out. I was like, none of those choices seemed particularly palatable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other path, there was no path. The path of self-healing, like I didn't see any pre-paved path. I didn't see where the next steps were. I didn't know what the next steps were. But all I knew was that the other path was not for me. So if that path isn't for me, then there's a path that is for me. So even though I was terrified, it was like, I'm going to go down this path where I can't see where the next step is. And I'm just going to start trusting myself. I'm going to start asking some questions, just like you were saying, what do I need to know about this in order to change it?
Mm-hmm.
And once we get really quiet, we're body, mind, and soul.
Yes.
And the soul has all the solutions. Hence, Solution Sunday. And when we get the mind quiet enough, then the soul can simply drop in all the information we need.
Mm-hmm.
But since childhood, we're taught to listen to other people, listen to your mother, listen to your preacher, listen to your teacher, listen to the authorities, listen to the government, listen to everybody else. And we're not taught to listen to ourselves. So we simply give up our seniority and we just simply follow along with the program that everybody else has laid out for us.
Mhm.
But just like you said, we each have our own answers inside. It's
Mhm.
just, it's making the choice to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that always comes to mind when I hear another person's story is how amazing that it is. And the fact that it is the compilation of these stories, that it really is, everybody's story is unique, valid, and is their pathway. So this is why when you listen to different ways to approach things, for example, when it's dictated to you in a way, like just like you're sharing, Lisa, of which I've experienced as well. Well, you got to take this regimen of drugs and blah 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 blah. um you know I or you have to follow this certain plan, or like the plan they wrote for me, which was, okay, you get to die in 5 years. If you don't die, you get a liver transplant. Well, I didn't get either of those outcomes. So all points are valid. So rather than looking for the diet or looking for the regimen, look here, look here, look here first, and make your choices from here. Those, from your heart. I say that the first step to healing is to go inside your heart, to connect to your heart, to open your heart, to open your heart.
Mhm.
That's the first step, is to open that heart, open your heart. And from that point, it, the possibilities are endless, because every possible outcome already exists and you can choose. You can choose.
Exactly.
Um, there was somewhere that I was going, there was something that I missed back there that you had said, and I don't know now what it was. So I lost my train of thought on that. I'll come back to it. But yeah, I just
You could have chosen, you could have chosen that outcome. You could have chosen to die in the 5 years. You could have
yes,
chosen to allow that to become your reality.
yeah.
You could have chosen that. The thing is, when they tell, when an authority figure like that tells us something,
Yes.
and they say, well, you're going to be dead in 5 years, you can take that to the bank, if you want, and you can
Mhm.
literally live out that prescribed pathway that they
Mhm.
have just handed you. If
Mhm.
you believe that, if you put validity on that,
This is true.
then you can simply live out that reality.
Mhm.
Or you could live out that reality and have the liver transplant.
Mhm.
You could have made any of that, but you made a different choice.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
like, those don't really
So
appeal to me. I'm the creator of my reality. I'm going to create something different. There's
yeah.
something else that's available for me. I'm
Yeah.
going to find that.
Yes.
Kudos to
Even
you.
another example of that even is, I was told I wouldn't have any kids. That I wouldn't probably, there was no possibility for me to have children because of my health status and, just everything that had happened. And I decided that we were going to have at least one. And when I went in to talk to my doctor about it, I was already pregnant, which is really interesting. I mean, it's almost like once I just decided, I mean, poof, I mean, it happened. And I think that, we had tried and it had never happened. Um, and but yet I was still, bicycling down that road of, at that time, I was bicycling down that road of, the medications and things like that. But I just, like I said, you just kind of swap that out. You just swap it out. But fear, I know that fear gets in the way for a lot of people. And this is why sometimes I talk about taking those baby steps, taking those baby steps and doing something each day that reinforces and brings you to that point of trust. And pretty soon you can take bigger and bigger steps. And before you know it, you're out of it. That's, to me, like the absolute, miracle. And this doesn't stop. The connection to ourself, it doesn't even, we have the opportunity to go deeper and deeper into ourself through source. And one of the things that came up for me in this last week was as in my younger years, I can remember being a person who I would be asked, well, what do you want? And I would say, I don't know. Or I would have other questions come up over the years. And it was always, this, I don't know, not really making a decision, right? Not really making a decision, just continually saying, I don't know. And even as recently, as the last 3 weeks on a whole new level, being asked something and I would say, I don't know. Or I would, and then being asked, well, what is your question about? What is your question then? And I would be like, I don't know. But yet the epiphany, I had I was sharing with Lisa before we got on this call that I just had this huge epiphany around my whole idea of I don't know. And I can't be the only one who doesn't know, who comes up, well, I don't know. And the answer for me was, wait a minute. When I don't know, it simply means that's my identifier phrase for an emotion or an experience that I haven't connected to, that's in here that I haven't as yet identified. So I am experiencing something. The I don't know is the signal for something unknown that you haven't experienced before. And so the key to that is to go inside of yourself and connect to whatever you're experiencing in your body in that moment of the I don't know. So this is going to be a really elementary way to phrase it, but what do I want for dinner? I don't know. Well, if you go in and you ask yourself, oh, what am I experiencing here? I'm experiencing this feeling of really not being that hungry. I'm really not that hungry tonight. And my body feels like it just doesn't want a lot of food on it. I think I'd rather just, and it's like, I'd rather just have a salad, or I'd rather just, and it brings you to a point of knowing, because all it is a signal. Now, this may seem like a small thing, but it's not. The I don't knows, every time that comes up in one's life, I mean, that kind of thing used to happen to me in the doctor's office. Now, I was more connected in there. I was more connected with, for me, because that's the area where I have a gift. That's the area where I have a gift. But in other places in my life, I've had to do more work around that. I've gotten to do a lot more work around that. So, yeah. I don't know. See what I'm experiencing, and you go to the experience. So the experience is, even in that, if I flip it right now, my experience is one of, I know what my experience has been going through this. What is yours? What is yours? Does this serve you? I put myself out here in the hopes of serving another person to resolve, to move through, and to ascend, through the body for humanity's sake. Truthfully, I'm here for humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the great shift, the great awakening. We are here to move this whole human game up another level. So that we can start living in this amazing, beautiful planet and living in peace and harmony and creativity and joy. And, we do know our answers. We've just simply, from childhood, we've been taught what we need to know. We're told what we need to know according to somebody else. And most of the time, when we've gone to school, they've just filled these noggins really with a whole bunch of useless information that really we don't need to know any of that stuff. What do we actually need to know? Well, we actually need to know how to live in harmony with this planet. We need to know how to tap into our natural rhythms. We need to know how to live in harmony with ourselves. And once we know how to live in harmony with ourselves, then we know how to live in harmony with the plants and animals around us, with the other people around us. And we start living in a completely different way. But in this world right now, we have been so disconnected from nature, from our natural rhythms. Alarm clocks going off at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's like, well, my body really needed to sleep until 7, but no. So, we're simply knocked out of our natural rhythms. And it's no wonder that our bodies get knocked out of their natural rhythms.
Yeah.
So this is really all about bringing ourselves back home to ourselves, connecting inside and really reconnecting to our truth. Because the soul has all the answers. Everything we need to know is inside. And these beautiful bodies are designed to heal themselves every single time.
Yeah. And I hear a ton in what you're saying. Like, for example, what I hear in what you're saying is frequency of energy, and everything is energetic. Everything carries frequency, different vibration, and the sensory system. So connecting that sensory system and really attuning it to bringing yourself into, it's like tuning yourself. And then you tune the environment is also tuned. So when you sync up with nature, you have so many advantages: color, sound, touch, taste, our connection. All of those sensory experiences come together to create what's really an amazing life and this huge opportunity. You are already healed. When you hook that all up, you are already healed. And if you don't believe it yet, keep saying it long enough. I am healed. I am perfectly healed. And these things begin to happen. They begin to shift in your body naturally. They begin because you begin to draw that in. Words carry energy, words and frequency. I'm going to butcher his name again. I did it on the summit as well. But the gentleman with the water studies, and it can be in other studies as well, where, the different frequencies, like of what we consider hateful words or positive things, affect all of those structures. So sorry guys. So that was my dog. So the more that you do to reinforce that within yourself, you're naturally going to be bringing these experiences into your sphere. And so things that engage your senses, that feel good, those are things that you can do. And I mean, you can do that like at breakfast this morning. Well, I don't know what time it is. For me, I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm on the West Coast. So you can incorporate these things into every single moment of your life. And I think that's healing is a lifestyle. It's living the healed state,
Yes.
if you will, to me.
Yeah. I love this conversation. I look at it as we each have our own soul song. We are unique individual souls, and we each have our own unique frequency, our own sets of experiences, and we have come here to sing our soul song. And when we are guided into singing somebody else's song, it doesn't bode well in our bodies. We're not meant to sing somebody else's song. The
Right.
only one who can sing your soul song is you.
Yes, yes, yes. That's yes, exactly. Oh, and oh my gosh, Lisa, when you said that, I get very excited because these kinds of connections, this is healing in itself. When you take the time to connect with others around you, you're receiving. You get to receive in that environment. And what's the best way? I'm trying to think of a good way to describe that. But when we choose to connect to sources that are higher in frequency, that are energetic, that we're drawn to, that raises our vibration, that raises our frequency and the cellular shift within our own body. So sometimes we think, I got to do it all on my own. I'm going to do this on my own. I don't need any help. I don't want any help. I don't want to reach out, and I'm just speaking from having had illness where I didn't look so hot. I felt really, I was really bloated up from steroids, and I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to, the last thing I wanted was a photograph. It was really horrible. So I'm speaking to those that may be dealing with things that, gosh, I don't really want to be out in public, or I really don't want to share this with anybody else. And yet it is that very sharing and that very willingness to open up and to connect that allows you to shift. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So, hopping on, like, even being in this container is nurturing and healing for me. So this is an example of that. So it doesn't have to be hard. It's simple. It is simple.
Yes, exactly. I love that, in this world, we're really taught to not be unique. Uniformity is king. Do what you're told. Everybody needs to do the same thing. If you don't do the same thing, then you're the odd man out and you're wrong. And by following the rules and doing what we're told, it kills us. It literally starts to diminish our frequency, because we're not meant to follow the rules and do what we're told just because somebody's telling us to do it. That has nothing, part of being here is us being able to stand in our own truth and say, no, thank you. This is what I need to do for me. But, we look out in the world and, people get punished for that kind of thing. But then we wonder, like, why don't I feel well? Well, because we're doing all of these things that don't jive with our soul. They don't match our frequency. So then we have all of these disjointed frequencies, and our bodies then just simply embody those disjointed frequencies. There's literally nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with our physical bodies ever. But when we're singing somebody else's tune instead of our own soul song,
yes,
the body is going to go, hey, hello, not your song. And it's literally trying to help us. Our bodies are literally pointing to the spaces where we're singing somebody else's song.
Yeah. And this really, oh gosh, I am floored by all that comes through on these calls, because when we're experiencing something that doesn't feel good, we want to give it an aspirin, or we want to medicate it. We want to push it down, and we want to get away from it. But what would happen if you listen to it? What happens when we listen to it? What happens when we say, oh, this is a message? What is the message? So that's your body reaching. You're not separated, but this makes it sound like you are, but that's your body talking to you, your soul talking to you, and letting you know that something's out of alignment. You're not lined up in, and this can show up in, it can show up in a physical or a spiritual way.
Yep.
It can show up as an emotion that gets to be cleared. I had the most amazing experience when my father passed, and yes, it definitely is still a tender spot for me. But when my father passed away, and I was with him, but within a few days of his passing, what I experienced was like the feeling of being absolved of every perceived negative thing that had ever passed between us. And the only thing that remained was the love, profound love. And this love is beyond any, this isn't even, you can't even put it in terms of what we share as human beings. It's a profound love. And I am so grateful, to him and to God, and however it shows up, for others. But I share it because I want people to know that these emotions that we carry, they're not the real part, because that love is what's real. That's what's there for you. And and you already are loved. We just get it all covered up. We get it all covered up.
Yep, exactly. The darkness, the heaviness, the fear, the doubt, the guilt, the shame, the blame, all of those energies are really, really sticky and magnetic. And we get that goo all over us. And then it weighs us down, and we feel heavy, and we feel depressed, and we feel unhappy, or whatever it is. But really, all those feelings is letting us know that we've got a bunch of goo on us.
Yeah.
And that we can literally just start clearing that off. Like we're not meant to carry it around with us. So, when I was really little, when I would go to sleep at night, I would just be part of this field of unconditional love. And it was just this bliss, just no density, no heaviness, no charge, meaning, no judgment, no criticism, none of that stuff exists in the all that is.
Right.
But all of those things, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? Those are really charged emotions. And,
yes.
When we carry that stuff around, it just weighs us down. So at at one point I had a friend who passed out of her body, and I was walking through my living room about a week later, and all of a sudden, just this profound joy, this bliss out of nowhere just overcame me. I was like, wow, what is, like, what is this? And then boom, there she was. And she said, I'm going to show you what happened when I left my body. And I said, cool. And she showed me herself lifting up out of her physical body, and all of those negative charges just simply, they simply disappeared. And all that was left was the light. And she showed me that it was almost like taking off a wetsuit, you know. She showed me the sort of like that relief of, like taking off a tight bra at the end of the day. It's like, ooh, ooh.
Yeah.
And it was just like this most profound experience. And I was so grateful that she shared that with me, because it just showed me how the electromagnetics really do work. And, all of that heavy charged stuff doesn't belong to us.
No,
Doesn't belong to any of us.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, we get this great privilege of coming here. We get the great privilege to be here and enjoy this physical world. And I think that I know we're here to enjoy this, to have fun, and we get to grab that. We get to take it. It's ours. It's already ours. And so I love that share, because that stuff isn't ours. That the crapola layer is not ours. That's not ours.
Exactly.
So it really speaks to, it really speaks to what we get to create here and how we get to live.
Yes. This is such a fear-driven society. And if we allow ourselves to just be driven by the fears and just do things because we're afraid to not do the things, that's not the point of living. That's what just simply makes us, that it facilitates our dying.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah.
We're here, just like you say, to live joyfully and abundantly and happy and healthy. And in order to do that, we have to be able to tune in and listen to our own inner guidance, or to be able to discern between what are the things that, the people that are telling us to sing somebody else's song, rather than allowing us to sing our own soul song.
Yeah. 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 And it always brings me back to the reminders of what people can, take and apply. How do I apply this, or how do I know what tool or what to use? And literally start, to me, what I did was I started paying attention to what I was drawn to. What I found was uplifting. And I learned, through and allowing your sensory system, to guide you in that. I became a person who could go through the grocery store and sort of energetically connect to my food. This might sound like it could be out of reach sometimes, but it's not. It's actually part of you. It is innate within you. You already have this ability. And I guess I just really want to reinforce that you already have all of these abilities. Yes. And so take advantage of it. Go and experiment. Go to the grocery store and stand in front of a couple of vegetables, beets and broccoli, and find out. Don't take it here. Take it here. Yes. Take it here. You have it. Does color appeal to you? You might be a person that would really benefit from, working through color, using through color that could come out in art. You know, if you've had this inner desire, connecting to those inner desires that you have not connected to, that you haven't chosen to, you know, take action on, taking action on all of those things. This moves this stuff. It moves the stuff. It's like, you know, you get out and you start doing it. It's like cleaning out your house almost. You know, you look at it. Am I using this? No. Do I want to use this? Yes. Have I ever used it? No, but I really want to. Go for it. You know, it's just very, very interesting. It's very amazing what happens. So I don't know. I just really wanted to bring that piece out because sometimes people don't know where to start. They say, well, I don't know where to start. Yeah. The other way you can start is you can connect with people like Lisa and me. There's uber amounts of people that are in this process, in if you want to call it a process, that are in this movement of energy at varying stages. And that's why we're all here together, is to learn from each other. So, you know, I just, I get excited about it because I see the possibility in an opportunity for each person. So, yeah,
you know, all of these conversations are so incredibly helpful. And you just recently completed your summit where there were some amazing conversations that were had about frequency and healing and all kinds of things. What got you started on doing those summits?
You know, something that's an interesting story, because that was the summit that almost never happened. I had no intention of holding another summit. And after my father passed, something switched in me. There was something that he left for me in his passing. There was a really large energetic shift that occurred in myself. And I realized that I was being almost extraordinarily selfish to not put myself out there and share what was there, share those experiences, because it can be messy and it can look like you might feel like it's not meant for you, but yet it is. It's serving. It is serving others. And I was drawn to create a summit. I was drawn to create a connected piece of work that showed and highlighted all of these aspects and ways that we have to look at healing, that we have to approach it, you know, tools. I mean, for example, one of the people on the summit, this was Patty. You know, she talked through on that summit of a whole aspect of using color, and she described it in her talk. And, you know, that was an amazing tool and technique. And there were others. You know, we had the sound healing. We had the connection piece through you. And we had emotions and limiting belief and clearing those. We had artistry. We had connection to nature and earth. And each person, it's the representation of humanity, because each person brings themselves to the picture and creates a beautiful picture for all. And we get to select. We can incorporate all or a piece, but the idea was to give every person watching that a place to go, a place to start, a place to consider. Wow, I really like that. Maybe I'm going to try that. I'm going to go for that. I'm going to give that a go and see what happens in my body. I'm going to give this a go and see what shifts in my relationships. I'm going to give this a go and see what happens with, my depression or whatever it is that you happen to be dealing with. Because healing isn't just about, like healing from liver disease or lupus or whatever. Healing is emotional. Healing is relationships. Healing is the earth, and we are the earth.
Yes, we are.
We are the earth. We are the earth, and that's how far this goes. We see ourselves as these, oftentimes as insignificant, and we're just a dot on the face of the earth. But no, we're not. We are the earth. We are the universe, and we are powerful, and we are sovereign, and we are healed.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm. That's my story of getting to the summit.
I love that. It's so beautiful. So will the summit still be available to anyone, or?
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we had such a huge response. We had nearly 500 people attend. They registered for that summit, and we have decided to release it again, but rather than releasing the videos like one at a time, we're putting together like a little, it'd be all in one. So Lisa has a gift. We created a gift for everyone today, which is an immediate access to Lisa's interview from the summit. And when you connect to that, it'll put you in to receive that set of the full summit videos, and rather than pieced out. So yeah, so that's what we're doing. We're going to do a re-release.
Beautiful. I will put the link in the chat. I thought I had copied it properly, but I think I didn't.
If you don't have it, I can probably grab it.
Yeah, I may have to.
Want me to see if I can grab it?
Sure, that'd be awesome. I don't know why it's not
let me
properly
flip
on
over
my
here and
side.
grab it.
That's all right. Let me see if it'll.
Let's see here.
Here we go.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Got it. So I just popped it in the chat for this link. There we go. So
yeah.
Now it's in the chat. If anybody is interested, just check the chat. If you're listening on YouTube or Connecting You to You Radio, just check the show notes and it'll be in there. And beautiful, because that was, I listened to most of those conversations. I haven't had a chance to listen to all of them yet, but you had some really incredible guests, and excellent information was shared. So there's definitely something for everyone in there. So.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the whole summit. I really enjoyed it. I loved all those conversations. It was great to connect. Literally, yes.
Yeah. There's so many opportunities for all of us to simply open up and perceive from different perspectives. And every time we hear a different perspective or a new perspective, it broadens our horizons.
That's right.
This world wants us to be so focused and don't look over here, don't look over here, just look right here, don't look anywhere else. But then we get siphoned down this narrow little corridor, and then we wonder, why are we not feeling well? But it's like every time we open up to new perspectives, it opens up that corridor, and we start to see that there are far more options than we're being pointed to in the medical world, in the world in general.
Yes. Yeah, it is a time for opening our eyes and our hearts. Yes,
Indeed, it is. 'Cause this is such an incredibly beautiful planet, and there are so many amazing opportunities to be had, adventures to be had, and why not live life to the fullest here?
Definitely. I think we all have that opportunity. Like I said, I I may repeat myself. However, it is up for the taking. It's like that ring on the merry-go-round or whatever, grabbing the brass ring and going with that. And choice, trust, action, connection, choice, action. Connection, choice, trust, and action. There we go.
We love that.
Get it all that rolled out.
Yeah, and that brings us kind of full circle back to the beginning with choice. Most people don't believe that they have a choice. Once they're told, once they're given a diagnosis, once they're given some prescription, they don't think that they have any other choices. But there are always choices. We are grand creator beings, and we can create anything we choose.
Yes.
But we have to choose it first.
Yes, we do.
We are simply told that this is our choice. Well, it's a choice, but we don't have to choose it simply because somebody tells us that's the only choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. That is absolutely right. Yeah.
Beautiful. So for anybody that's watching, Rebecca and I are both living examples of we can heal ourselves, no matter what the conventional wisdom says currently about what types of diseases you have, what's wrong with you, how long you have left to live, all of this. We're both living examples of not true for us. We didn't choose that path. We have chosen to live life fully, and we have just both proven that we can heal ourselves. And this is available to every single one. Neither one of us are special in that regard. If we can each heal ourselves despite crazy diagnoses or facing whatever horrible diseases that we have been faced with, we are living proof that your body heals itself every single time when you let it.
Yes. Yes, it does. And it's an incredibly supportive feeling and an amazing feeling to know.
It is. And it's really empowering to know that you can heal yourself. You are the one that is in charge of your own body. And just because you're told that the doctors need to be in charge of your body, it's not actually true. You are the only one that is in there. You are the only one that has any control over what actually happens inside your own cells.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And it just brings, like you were saying, it does bring it back to the choice, and really just that point of identifying for yourself that, is this something that I want? Is this really what I want? And if it's not what you want, choose differently.
Exactly.
Yeah, choose differently.
Yep. There are always other choices. Always, always, always.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Rebecca, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation this morning. I always love our conversations. Lots of wisdom is always shared when we get together.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, Lisa. And I apologize for my animals this morning making such a ruckus.
No worries. They want to be in on the action too.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been a real pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening this morning. Thank you all for participating. And until next week, we wish for you a great week. Create for yourselves a great week. And we will be back with another episode of Solution Sunday next week, because the soul is the solution. So create for yourselves a great week. Till next week, bye for now.